not work?
That's always the good one. That always
Shit.
works.
No.
Have we got to do our little intro again?
Yeah, I think
Well,
so.
swish! The intro worked this time. We did it. We got it all
And then
nailed
it's
in,
not
and now,
working.
no,
Hold
now,
on.
now we're all good. We're working.
Is the audio working?
It is. I'm redoing the intro. I'm
Okay.
just saying. I'm joking about it. I'm saying.
Okay, go on. All right. Do
Okay,
it. Go
swish.
on.
Oh, the
Swish.
intro was
Go
really
on.
smooth, but this like stupid fucking interface not actually like working when it normally works. But anyway, we've been busy. We've been doing stuff. We've noticed this AI, fucking not AI, this NPC TikTok phenomenon.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to tell Angie without obviously telling all of you because our mics weren't fucking
Sorry,
working
guys, about
was
that.
that
Shit.
I actually think that this AI, not AI, sorry, this NPC TikTok live stream phenomenon is some kind of absolute psyop by the CCP to essentially make people think that this is popular and that this is actually like a thing that people are doing now and that this is just where culture and society has gotten to
I think that
because
that's like
it demoralizes everybody to then and it makes us see our fellow people and men and women of society as like, oh, you might seem like a normal person, but you also might be one of those people that are actually donating stickers to a fucking NPC live streamer as like a bit of entertainment. And that, I don't know. I don't know if like that's just kind of my age. And if I knew that someone participated in that kind of behavior, my estimations of them would plummet
Yeah.
to the fucking ocean floor.
Yeah.
And so, and this is the psyop game that I think it's playing. Is that it's not necessarily just like, oh, isn't this silly? And haven't we infested your fucking social media with all this retardation?
Yeah.
But it's actually like, no,
But
it's
I
affecting
also-
it's affecting the way that you think about other people and where other people are at now.
But I also
in this current time and culture and everything that they're so fucking far gone that they would participate in shit like
I
this.
disagree. I think that that's an obfuscation. I think that blaming China is easy. I think that saying, "Oh, it can't possibly be that our fellow people have gotten this like."
Sorry, is my
retarded."
PragerU badge showing?
Sponsored by the Koch brothers. I wish we would have a better setup and our audio would work if we were fucking sponsored by the Koch brothers. But hey, if you're listening, I'm joking. But yeah,
I wouldn't take it. I
you wouldn't take Coke money?
I wouldn't take the money.
you wouldn't
Let's
take
be
even
honest.
a little bit of Coke money.
No,
From the
because
Koch
like,
brothers.
what's the point?
Yeah,
'Cause then
you'd
you
be
just get- you
constrained,
get-
and then you have to do like fucking boomer ticks and like
You get piped
fucking-
into another different type of content pipeline,
Yeah.
and then a different set of bots are all fucking launched upon
But even
your
then, I wouldn't-
content to make you look popular, which
Yeah,
leads
yeah.
some people to actually view it, which, you know, it's all absolutely fake
But
and
back
fabricated.
to what you were saying, I think it's easy to blame China, and I think you see that argument a lot, especially on social media, of people being like, none of these trends could possibly be organic. It must be, fake. But no, I think that like the incentive structure of social media and like the growing sort of alienation has bred this monstrous culture, and that what you are seeing is very real. And like I feel like trying to just say, oh, it's like fake or it's like manufactured is a way of not confronting the fact that we're in sort of an existential emergency.
It's not that. It's not. I'm not trying to obfuscate by making this theory. What I'm trying to say is I've seen, the idea that TikTok is reverse opium wars.
Yeah.
I've seen then them even refer to certain types of digital engagement, i.e., playing games, as spiritual opium. So that's something that they're very, very clearly
Aware of,
clued
yeah.
in on the effects of
Yeah.
different types of digital engagement or whatever.
But they're also
And so,
willing-
is it out of the question that actually, and the first ones of these NPC live streamers all came from China as well?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
is it out of the question to actually debate or even bring up the idea that these are totally fabricated and it is to have this effect on you? It's nothing to do with money or any of that. It's literally to make you think that we are so far gone and shit that people would fucking actually do this, number one. And then number two, you see how popular it is. Tens of thousands of people at any
Yeah,
one
yeah,
time,
yeah.
all literally fucking watching this benign, brain-numbing shit. And it's just like, that definitely changes how you start to think about
people, yeah.
And
It's
that's the
true.
game. It's not like, oh, China's bad and whatever. It's like, no, it's a very clever, insidious fucking psyop game to make everybody else judge other people.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole kind of function of social media, is sort of social, judgment and like social ostracization and also kind of like mass formation. And I think a lot of the traffic currently on these streams or whatever is coming from people who are just like, there are people who are genuinely into it and it may be like a fetish for them, but I think because it's become such a fixture of the cultural conversation, a lot of people are just fucking curious and want to be part of this cultural moment. Like, I remember there was one TikTok of a girl who was making fun of the NPC streamers, and then like 10 minutes later she's making NPC streaming content or whatever. And it also speaks to the fucking precarity in the job market for young people. Because, like, we think, because we're like middling millennials, we're both 29 or whatever. So we see ourselves as young people, but we forget there are like 22-year-olds behind us and what the job market must be like for them, how difficult it must be currently, considering how hard it was for like our generation or whatever. And then they see people doing this sort of thing and making like the girl
obscene money.
Yeah, obscene money. The girl who initially went viral, the black girl. She was, I think she's making like $7,000
a
day or something crazy like that.
It's just utterly stupid.
But the funny thing is she actually stopped the stream in order to reprimand her child.
Yeah.
Which like destroyed the illusion for all of the like weird coomers who are like watching her.
I've got to be honest, a lot of the hot takes I've seen on YouTube trying to explain the phenomenon or rationalize it in whatever way, these influencers and whatever people can, it does largely revolve around, oh, see, they're a Kuma and look, she's like jumping up and down doing a thing about ice cream. And it's a sexual thing, and it's a fetish, that's what and I feel like that's way easier obfuscation than my fucking Looney Tunes CCP fucking psyop idea. I feel like dude, you're fucking existing in the digital realm of the internet, and you're gonna jack off to that?
Yeah, but the thing is, there are some people who like I don't believe it. Engagement. Like the types of guys who are like on OnlyFans and stuff. The thing that makes it erotic for them is the idea that like this girl is interacting with them and that she's doing stuff because they're like making her do stuff or whatever. That's like what brings the erotic thrill. So like pornography alone doesn't do it for them. They need some form of like parasocial engagement or whatever.
I'm sorry, I don't. I think that's too much
like,
of
I want my bitches nameless and faceless.
I think that's too much of an easy excuse, and I don't think that it's as simple as fetish. I think that there is an amount of the audience that is like just TikTok users that then you stumble across this and it's a fucking weird video. So you're on it for like, maybe more than 30 seconds. And that adds then up to you stumbling across it and you see 10,000 people on it because that's the 30 seconds that those 10,000 people are actually watching it.
But it's like it's the same type of people who like Bad Baby, for instance, or anyone who has gone viral for something stupid or quote unquote antisocial. It sort of attracts like a milieu of like this weird peanut gallery of celebrators or whatever. I don't think it's all sexual, but I think that there's a large subset of it that actually is.
I saw someone the other day, I can't remember if it was like some sort of Medium article, a very sweaty Medium article of someone that was clearly, I don't know, it was actually, it raised an interesting idea, but I fundamentally disagree with it, and maybe that's because of my age and connection with the people that they were talking about.
Yeah.
But they were essentially saying that you had Tom Green and Jackass, and now you have this. Which was that, look, people have been doing stupid shit for the sake of comedy or attention, or however you'd want to put it, for ages. This isn't a new thing. This is just the latest form that it's in, and get to grips with it, old man. Essentially, was
but how many of these people are going to create the magnum opus that was Freddy Got Fingered?
Well, this is my point.
That's the thing. You can't compare.
And hey, I would also
Freddy Got Fingered is genius.
I would also say Jackass, at least pick your favorite one, but of the first three Jackasses, like any one of those, they should that one of those should be held in like in a vault somewhere.
Yeah,
because it captures a time and a culture, everything like so fucking perfectly.
Wasn't it MTV?
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. That was different because it was like, okay, MTV is gonna give us, because MTV was this young, cutting edge, like edgy thing, and they were like, we're a bunch of stupid guys and they're gonna give us a bunch of money to do stupid shit. That's different than like
I'm gonna
trying
do
to go
stupid
viral.
shit
Yeah.
in the hopes that
I might go viral or whatever. But there are a few people like that Mizzy kid who we were talking about a few weeks ago, who was like going into people's houses and like pretending to be a burglar, like as a little black boy.
Yeah.
That's just like fucking.
I don't know.
Oh
I
my
think
God, if he
that
was
whole
my
thing,
cousin
that
or
whole
whatever,
thing just
I'd
ended
be
up becoming
concerned.
super vapid. It was just
Yeah.
like, oh, look at me causing trouble, and yeah, you think I'm a troublemaker because I'm black. That means you're racist.
Yeah.
And not only that, but then I've also got this
The
like
attention of the media.
this kind of
and,
like
blah blah blah.
exit the matrix kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
philosophy that
yeah.
I'm now trying to kind of spout as
Everybody's
something.
pushing some kind of
But
exit
it's also
the
like
matrix
you're
philosophy
only
right now.
18 and you clearly haven't actually studied philosophy. You've like, or not studied that sounds really shitty. No 18-year-old's gonna have fucking studied philosophy.
Well, what do you
But
mean?
it's more like he was sort of, I'm not a prankster, I'm a philosopher, was like something he
Yeah,
tweeted.
yeah.
And you're just like, I'm sorry, man, but like language can be stretched so fucking far, and you're not a fucking philosopher. Like you've read,
How do you know
and
he's not a philosopher?
because all of the language that he's using is literally Andrew Tate, but strip out all of the haram.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, every
Andrew Tate, strip out all the haram and like kind of like peppered misogyny stuff, and you've got essentially
But that's the
Mizzy
grift.
and what he's trying to pitch.
But that's part of the grift. It's so that it's like lowest common denominator. So the NPC stream is just kind of the logical conclusion of like the current internet incentive structure. And like if you're not pushing some kind of exit the matrix red pill philosophy to awaken your followers, then you need to be like a hot young girl doing NPC fucking hand ticks or whatever the fuck for hours on end for tips.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's the internet used to be a lot more creative, but now everything feels like e-begging, like just more intricate forms of e-begging.
Yeah.
Even the news you listen to. I who is it we were watching the other day that was selling silver or whatever the
Russell
fuck?
Brand.
Yeah.
But it's also, but
He's
what?
fucking selling
but
silver
even
and
the,
shit. Like
even the,
everybody's fucking panhandling and
But
e-begging and
not
like
not just that. I've also
it's like, is the news an excuse for the e-begging? Is
I've
the
n-
fucking what everything just feels like it's
I've noticed, okay, since Russell's joining Rumble and whatever kind of content negotiations or deals have then been struck for him to run his operation as it is now, he covers the same fucking topics as a whole bunch of people that also seem to be in the same like
milieu.
media little bubble or whatever. And it's that thing of, does the cynical person in me go, oh, they're all probably getting paid and getting stuff sent to them by the same group of people? Or is it, oh, all of my peers are also talking about this thing, so I should
mixture.
also make a video
It's a
about
mixture.
this thing?
It's a mixture because
Or are
there's a
they
ton
like,
of-
hey, you should cover this week? We would
No.
really love it if you did a video about this.
No, I think
because then everybody does a video about it, and you're like, how
it's a
is
mixture,
this?
but I
just-
don't even think it needs to go that far. I think that like in order there's like a sort of subtle social pressure in the media environment to conform to certain models that yield success, and that includes sort of chasing the algorithm and being incredibly topical and being bound by the topical model. And like when it comes to news and stuff, that's like the feature. And then when it comes to these like NPC streams, it's like under 25 hot girl specific aesthetic that's like anime but like pornified anime or whatever. There's like all these weird media formats now that exist, and your job is to just sort of slot yourself into one of them and cannibalize like as much attention from the attention economy as possible. The actual creativity, the message is secondary. The grift is the primary fucking thing right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I find it like abject. I think that the way the media environment is evolving is really just gross and demoralizing. Your China take is very interesting for sure, but I also think,
Mate, I think it's a fucking valid theory. I think there's so much.
That
I
it's
think
like obfuscation
even
of the fact that this is just the natural result of the media. And the thing is, China has been accelerationist with it in the sense that they've tested a lot of these models on their own population. I mean, even the evil model that Replica is using, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We're going to circle back round to that. But yeah, even the evil model that Replica's using, wasn't it tested in China prior to, isn't that what we read?
Replica is actually made in the West. It was developed
But
in the
it was
West.
some technology or something that they used that was from China, or what was it again?
No, China has their own stuff that they're doing, but replicas are completely
Or
Western.
they copied something that China did, which
No,
is what it said.
it was this woman that like lost her partner and then wanted to make a
No,
companion.
I know that. I'm talking about the it was something it was in the video we watched or whatever, I forget, but it was something to do with China having, it was gaming. Sorry, I'm forgetting. It was with gaming, and it was to do with online gaming in China, and how it was like they tested something on, what was it again? Do you remember?
I don't know. It's probably something to do with like some hard numbered way that you could measure success or whatever that meant in the Chinese system, and that if you gamed more than the allowed amount of hours, which is I think 3 hours or something like this, I don't know if that's a week or a day, but that's, you know, an amount of time, that if you gamed more than that your test scores would drop, and that would make you a bad citizen.
No, it wasn't that. It was something else that they did. I don't know if it was like farms, something to do with World of Warcraft or whatever.
That's a totally different thing. That's where like Chinese whole warehouses of office blocks essentially are using people to farm gold in World of Warcraft. I mean, this has existed a long time in lots of different capacities.
There does seem to be a gaming culture in China. There also
that's illegal. Like what they're doing, those gold farming things. That's not just illegal from like a Blizzard, I'm trying to make money, don't sell gold in my game standpoint, but also from a Chinese, you can't game more than 3 hours a day. Like that's 100%
There also seems to be a
illegal.
huge streaming culture in China as well. They have like huge streaming farms where people are like paid like minimum wage to just stream endlessly. There's also a massive kind of what was it? There's streaming. What else was there? There's a lot of like accelerationist weird shit going on in China, and you think that because a lot of people who are like China stans are like, oh, China understands like the corrosive aspects of capitalism on collective psychology, and they curtail that shit on for their population. It's like, no, not really. Like a lot of the models that are now being implemented in the West have already been implemented there. Like even stuff like an Omni platform, for instance, which is kind of what Elon Musk is trying to create with X, with the rebranded Twitter X or whatever. Part of the reason he's attempting to get rid of the Twitter brand is because it's associated with like microblogging and whatever. And he wants to turn X into a sort of Omni app where you can do more than just like read people's opinions. And the thing is, China has already had that sort of model. So the idea that there's like checks and balances on this stuff, or that they're not necessarily exploiting their own people in certain ways, I don't necessarily buy that. Which is why I don't necessarily fully buy the idea that, oh, China's just trying to destabilize the West with its apps. We're actually really good and noble.
No, I'm not. I'm not making
warping
the statement that we're good and noble. I'm making the statement that it is potentially a psyop. Nothing about what we do or how we're better, anything like that. Just purely the fact that this is potentially a psyop in the way that it's doing, what its goal is, why it exists.
And you think it's like there to demoralize us and to make us feel like our fellow man is retarded?
Absolutely.
I think that's already kind of the case. Like, I don't think...
No, but it's more things that crop up that cement that feeling.
Yeah.
And, like, actually, you see it visually that there is another person literally doing this. And not only that, thousands of people watching and supporting it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just... They've written this thing and hypothetically, you know, West is bad and China's good or whatever. It's like a very practical thing, which is why it's different. It's like a physical psyop.
It's crazy,
in my opinion, definitely.
Well, moving on to Replica.
No, we got Screen Actors Guild stuff first.
Okay, well, I thought that would be a good segue to move from that to this, but if you want to go,
let's do Screen Actors Guild first, because that's what I've got on my thingy, and I don't want the OBS to break.
No,
as it has already been fucking around with us a lot today. Let's see if this works. Well, hey, it worked. So there we go.
So a lot has been going on with the writers' strike, obviously, and the Screen Actors Guild strike. One of the sort of massive things that's been going on in the news currently is the fact that studios have now proposed to replace a lot of different things with AI, not just actors, but also just in terms of generating stuff that they otherwise wouldn't have had the power to. But one of the things that came out of the strike was the fact that studios were sort of talking about scanning the likeness of extras.
Yeah.
And
for a single day's work.
Yeah, for a single
day.
Yeah,
use
to then
their
use
likeness in
indefinitely.
perpetuity.
Yeah.
Which was quite insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then not only that, but then as this has all been going on, there was a company that essentially made this big pitch that they could AI generate entire episodes of your favorite TV shows, and they use South Park, I guess, as a baseline because it is also very simplistic in its art style. There's like if you looked at the production cost of an episode of South Park, especially these days where it's digital and you've got templates and you're just moving characters around and stuff, I can totally see how they use this as a first example. I think the timing of it is incredibly insensitive and shit and not good. But it is it's like that thing I think you were mentioning, like incentives within the media and whatever like that. All these fucking things are businesses, man, and their incentive is to make money, and like it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper to generate TV shows where you don't have to pay anybody and you're like just signed up for whatever cloud service that's going to generate you new TV shows.
And not just that, they can also afford to wait the strikes out. They have like
and they have literally said that as well.
Yeah, that they're just going to wait for people to go broke, basically.
And starve them out.
Yeah, basically.
So
and
that
on top of that, there have been a few things announced that are going to be entirely AI generated in upcoming movies. So Tom Hanks and Robin, what's-her-face, are going to be digitally recreated for an upcoming project, which I'm guessing has something to do with Forrest Gump, since that's the only movie that they've both been in together. James Dean is being resurrected from the dead too, and is going to appear in a upcoming film. So it's already sort of being implemented, and I only see it sort of accelerating from this point forward. And yeah, they can afford to wait out the actor strike. And on top of that, Silicon Valley has been cozying up to Hollywood like crazy. I saw a news report of a tech company that basically does 3D renderings of people and then can either animate them or change the person to look like whatever the fuck they want, and render scenes that would maybe take 3 weeks to do in like an hour. So obviously studios are really excited about the potential of this technology and how it's going to save time and money. But then when the news anchor asked the guy, is this going to affect anyone's job? He was like, no, it's a creative tool. Of course it's not going to. It's just something that needs to be used and needs to be out there. And it's so funny how like whenever any sort of ethical question is asked, they just like gloss over it. But yeah, I find this sort of diabolical marriage of Hollywood and Silicon Valley really like worrying. And I think it's also really interesting that now that the actors and the writers are striking and attempting to use what they view as their power to pressure the studios, Silicon Valley sort of swooped in and is like, hey guy. And the thing is, it's not just happening to Hollywood, it's going to happen in so many different industries. And I think people really associate Silicon Valley with like fucking social media, blah 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 blah. Those platforms and streaming, like those platforms aren't even profitable. They're dying. Like where the real money is right now is like AI and robotics and all the things that are going to like be the frontiers of the future and like the interfaces of the future. That's really what these companies are focusing on. And they're trying to find ways of marketing their technologies to businesses that can use them to cut costs, lower the cost of things, like blah, blah, blah. So yeah, like Hollywood is already taking advantage of this, and I just see it kind of continuing in this way. But I'm also not really that concerned. Like I don't care that much because I don't watch that much TV anymore.
Yeah.
Or films. Like I find them pretty boring and like and I don't think there's that much creativity or spirit in most of them. So
no, but then I think there is an interesting philosophical debate around a lot of a lot of it as well, where I think there's a pretty shitheady take to have around the whole writer strike thing of being like, oh, you're striking, yeah, but what have you made for me recently? She-Hulk? And, all of these travesty fucking shows that, like, no one gives a shit about. Like, it's okay,
what are you fighting for Wes Anderson to make fucking Bob the Builder? Like, that's what's coming next. Like, that's basically it. Like, didn't a bunch of studios just signed a deal with Mattel where they're going to be making 40 different films based on Mattel toys. And, like, that's basically what's left. Like, even with Barbie, like, Greta, what's her face? She's, like, an indie darling or whatever, and, like, was making all these sort of quaint little indie films, and now she's, like, doing this, like, massive corpo film or whatever. Because that's, like, the material, that's the medium that is, like, left to work within, because it's become so corporate and so corporatized that if you want to tell a story, that's the kind of palette that you have to deal with. Oh, we need to press the button so we don't go off. But yeah, that's the kind of palette that any artist has now to tell a story. And I mean, that's not to say interesting things can't come of that, but at the same time, it's like kind of sickening.
It's the constraints of the current system and the way that it works, essentially. Yeah. And so that then leads to the current output. And if people aren't really, like, happy or they're less engaged with TV culture as it was, like, I think definitely that would be the case if you sort of look back even across my kind of adolescence and adulthood. You had stuff like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones that literally dominated people's conversation week to week in a way that was pretty, like, I guess kind of natural in a way as well, because it came off the back of, like, soap culture and lots of other kind of stuff that was that week to week kind of storytelling that people were genuinely engaged with. And the internet didn't completely break that. No. It was actually kind of...
It added to it in a way.
It added to it and made certain things accessible, right? Like, I would never have watched Game of Thrones even if I, didn't have the internet, because I wouldn't have had Sky, because I wasn't a fucking middle class prick or whatever. My parents didn't dish out for the satellite fucking system, so it's just like not how it goes. But now you got the internet, you can fucking pirate that shit and you can watch it regardless, even if you're not subscribed to anything. And that even then fuels the fucking profitability of these shows in all sorts of ways. So, like, it's like, you can't torrent and pirate things because there's bad. No, it's not. Piracy is actually
initial success to pirating, and the executive producers even came out and admitted that.
It's that thing of, like, on one hand, in certain mediums and cultures, piracy is based and good, but in other things, it's actually kind of fundamentally, like...
Would you steal a bag, Jake?
Fundamentally not cool, dude. It is fundamentally, like, the downfall of the entire music industry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it's been shown that it makes things like Game of Thrones more profitable if people have access to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, horses for courses kind of thing.
But I also feel kind of gaslit, because it's like, on one end, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that this, like, bloated, decadent behemoth is finally, like, in its death throes. But at the same time, is that really true? We've been trying to get tickets to watch fucking Barbie because I'm, like, curious about it. Well, no, you were supposed to get us into a screening and you couldn't use your magical Soho Man powers to do it. That's how under demand this fucking movie is. Like, we were this close to getting to see it, and then... But it's okay, we're going to see it next week. But yeah, like, Barbie, you can't get a seat. Oppenheimer, you can't get a fucking seat. Regardless of, the idea that Hollywood is failing, these films are still, like, fucking... The marketing was, like, so intense. And also the mass formation psychosis that it's, like, created.
Yeah.
Like, people... The takes on Twitter have been flying. I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are, like, doing the takes haven't even fucking seen the film. Everybody's like everybody's making it about their political views as well.
Of course they are.
It's like,
what did you expect?
This is why it's hard for me to do the podcast sometimes, because I'm just like, too much is going on and most of it is retarded. Like, what am I supposed to fucking talk about? Like, people are like, oh, Barbie's woke. Oh no, it was based in, like, right wing. So it was a celebration of Apollonian.
I don't know about.
It's like, oh my god,
I don't know about
stop.
all of that because I haven't seen the film yet. So I'll wait to see the film before I pass any judgment on what it's actually trying to say. But I think, when you looked at different types of stats of how successful different things are, like in industry and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like as the film industry goes, it's become a little bit more like the music industry in the way that you'll have 9 misses and 1 hit.
Yeah.
But the 1 hit is such a fucking hit
Yeah.
that it fucking makes up
It
for
pays
all
for
the
all
rest,
the-
and it just everyone celebrates it, and it's the biggest fucking thing.
Yeah,
And so
no.
last year you had Top Gun. And that
Yeah.
essentially then proved, yeah, we can still do this. We can still make fucking balls to the wall, epic fucking action movies and make a
I didn't
shitload of
see
money
it.
doing it. You should have. It was fucking amazing.
I know.
And right, not all of the big hitter shows or like films are going to be shit, like schlocky stuff. Sometimes they are genuinely good films.
Yeah.
This year, you've now had Barbie and Oppenheimer, which had that same kind of effect. I mean, Chris Nolan, whenever he makes a film, people talk about it. He's one of those kind of directors. So there's going to be an amount that just happens and naturally through when he's in the release cycle of making a film. Barbie is an interesting thing to make a film about, especially at this time, because of its history.
Gender wars?
Gender wars, how women are portrayed in media, all of these different things.
But I
It's a
don't
very
know.
interesting time to make a film about Barbie, who is
Yeah.
like the consumerist icon of feminine beauty in lots of ways, and had been for decades.
But whether or
for most
not-
people's
Yeah,
childhoods
yeah,
that
yeah.
are still alive today.
Yeah.
So it's so both of those. I get it's totally valid why everyone is so fascinated with these two films, and I think it's
you-
great
you
and
don't
really
think it's
healthy
in-
that you can't get a seat in any of the best theaters in London. Because everybody wants to see it. I think that's fucking great. That's healthy, and there should be more of that attitude. But there can't be because not a lot of fucking films are made to the quality for you to actually get excited about them.
But
like
you're
that.
saying, so basically you're saying that you think that the Barbie Oppenheimer sort of frenzy isn't necessarily indicative of the power of Hollywood. That
No.
It's just because these films are what they are that they're popular. It's not necessarily because Hollywood has like a hidden ace up its sleeve or whatever.
No, not at all.
But then again, Sound of Freedom. We'll move on to the other stuff in a minute, but Sound of Freedom has made a ton of money, despite the fact that it's been mostly maligned by the mainstream. And there's a sort of almost saltiness about the fact that this film that's like an outsider quote unquote film is making money comparable to the summer's biggest blockbusters. So there's like this
Almost.
I don't necessarily see that as like, oh yeah, because I think it's just like, because it's annoying. There's even an app now where you can look at whether brands are liberal or conservative and shit. And I feel like that's kind of what it's splitting into. You have,
Sweet. I can like model my entire life to make sure I'm only buying based products.
you can try. I mean,
Excellent.
all the conglomerations are in bed with each other anyway.
I feel like that is such a.
It's just what modern politics is, and that it's the same thing with Sound of Freedom versus the horrible woke Barbie and like, you know, the Hollywood degeneracy or whatever the fuck. It's just two markets, and it's like people carving out market value from these two markets, these two deeply animated, passionate markets. Fucking normie libs who are like consumers, and like conservatives who are also consumers but like view themselves as outsiders or whatever the fuck. That's a huge demographic full of pay piggies who are willing to part with their money to feel like they're like doing activism and saving the world in the
Yeah.
same way that liberals do the same fucking shit. Like a lot of them thought that like watching Don't Look Up last summer or winter, when was it that
Yeah,
came
last
out,
Christmas. Yeah.
was them like doing their part to, or whatever, to promote a good message or whatever. And it's just like, this is what it's like, it's devolved into.
Hey,
like,
I wanted to like that film. It was made by the guy that did The Big Short. Like, I really rate him, and pretty much all the movies he's made around that era. Like, he did Vice as well with
I haven't seen
friggin'
any of them. I've
that
seen
was
The Big
fucking
Short,
awesome.
and I thought it was whatever.
Oh no, it was great. Like, The Big Short was a good film. Like, let's not just be snippy
just
and
like a
shitty because he did a lib film afterwards.
No, The
but
Big
like,
Short
it doesn't
was
mean
like about mortgage shit. It's like
Yeah.
adult problems.
Yeah,
that
but
I
it
don't
was-
want to think about when I'm
okay.
watching a movie.
whatever. What? Oh, I hate to break it to you. Oppenheimer might be a bit heavy for you then.
I'm not,
Okay,
even that,
like-
I'm not even that stoked. I don't even care really. There's not. What am I excited for? I'm excited for Hayao Miyazaki's new, unnamed, unmarketed.
It's not unnamed.
Sorry, what's the name of it?
The Boy and the Heron.
The Boy and the Heron. Well, it's unmarketed because he's just that much of a fucking gangster that he can just fucking, and that's how it should be. He just fucking drops the movie. He's Hayao fucking Miyazaki. Of course we're gonna go fucking see a fucking movie. But the thing is, it's not coming out in London yet, and we don't know when. I hate that we get movies later than the rest of the world. It sucks.
I've been trying to use all my little insider contacts to be like, hey, when's it coming,
when's
bro?
it
Like,
coming?
what's
I
going
can't
on? They're
tell
like, actually, mate, it's not been announced yet. It's like, well,
the fuck,
as
dude?
soon as you know anything, like, message
Please
me,
let me
because
know. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for. There's this one other film. I think it's made by the guy who did The Favorite, and Emma Stone is in it again. And it looks really quirky and like right up my alley. So
there's going to be a great theatrical experience that everybody should do in December.
What?
I'm amazed that this is even actually coming out into public theaters and
What?
it's going to get some screen time. 40th anniversary of Scarface.
Oh my god.
I am fucking hyped, mate. I am fucking hyped. Like, that film is amazing.
It is pretty
And I've
good.
only ever watched it like either on my laptop or just at home on like my little system on my shitty fucking PC monitor. So to get a proper theatrical experience of fucking Scarface is going to be amazing.
Yeah,
That's going to be a film that I remember probably for my entire life.
You screened Apocalypse Now the other day.
Oh, that was
so. That was so.
I think we've
good.
mentioned it on probably 3 episodes now,
Yeah.
but it was literally just the most
Yeah,
ridiculous OP
yeah,
fucking
yeah, that was
experience
great.
ever, though. That was the thing.
I felt like I was right there in the thick of it because of being in that like fucking probably the best theater in like
The world, yeah, it is one of them.
yeah, and like getting to be like immersed in that film, sound and picture was like a really intense. Like when Kurtz gives his speech, like and his head was like this big. Like, I was just like, oh my god, this is too much for me right now. I can't take it. But yeah, I don't know.
Dude,
I feel,
just that intro with the doors and the
Yeah.
fucking helicopters
Yeah.
fucking zooming around you and shit, like this is the end. Like,
I feel like
holy
every
fuck.
guy when they hear a helicopter overhead, like that song just starts playing in their
No,
head.
that now all that happens is the quote in my mind is just like, Charlie don't surf. That's why we're taking this fucking beach, because Charlie don't fucking surf. Oh my
You
god.
look like you could be in the film.
I look like you said I could have been the photographer guy.
Yeah.
Dennis
Jakey
Hopper,
got a little
crazy
haircut.
nuts.
He looks like
Yeah, thank you.
He looks like Jon Snow now.
Look, everybody managed to miss that embarrassing intro because the
Intro.
mics weren't working, and now you've brought it up again.
You've got to say ghost in a northern accent.
No,
Go on.
I'm not gonna do role play for you
Oh no,
on the
come
stream.
on, please.
This is like
For
too
me.
much. Look, we gotta move this over to OnlyFans if I'm starting to fucking give you role play on the
just a
stream.
little bit, just a little bit.
No way,
Aw.
dude. No way.
I bully you like Ygritte bullies John.
Do you want to
It's fine.
see a little bit of this AI South Park?
Yeah, I do.
Because I thought it was
Is it
like
good?
no, it was pretty shit. But I still think that it was like it's still interesting to see where it even like they show you the kind of the software that they use to make it.
Yeah.
It's called Showrunner. That is called something like Showrunner, which I thought like
Wow.
for you is like with your because you were trying like that was your whole thing is like TV and whatever when you were in uni. It was like Angie would literally her soul die when she sees this.
Oh my god. Why do you want to kill my soul? Why the
Look
fuck
at this!
do you
Look
want
at
to
this!
kill my
Look at this!
soul?
This is called the simulation. And so they're sketching out all of the characters that are going to be in something. Here we go. Showrunner system.
Wow. I mean, I'm like upset, but also slightly titillated at the same time because like it is kind of cool that you can do this.
This is like literally picking all the South Park characters, picking where they want it to do, and
then
now
writing a
it's literally
prompt.
writing a prompt that is like Cartman heard of the Screen Actors Guild strike. The kids are worried about it, so they're going to make an episode about this
with the voices.
with AI generated voices based off of all the hours of South Park that
Wow.
exists.
Does it tell jokes? Like, is it funny?
Yeah, well, it tries to tell jokes. It's a bit of a miss. It's obviously it's not Matt and Trey. It's not funny. But
Turn the volume up a little bit.
hang on.
Guys, have you heard about the Screen Actors Guild strike? Yeah, it's all over the news. That sucks. Does that mean there won't be any new shows coming out? Exactly. And that's where my business idea comes in.
Like immediately, the inflections and the way they deliver
Yeah.
the lines is completely wrong.
No, yeah.
But it has its own kind
Charm?
of humor in
Yeah,
the way.
in
It's
the
very
way.
kind of like flash animation style, kind of taking
But it kind of
back.
reminds me of early South Park in the way that it's like janky and like
Kind of
weird.
I'm glad you asked, Kenny. It's It's called Queep.
Oh, and none of the mouth animations are accurate to the mouth animations. Like, people might think that this is a really simple thing, but actually there is a different mouth picture for every vowel that you would make with your mouth when you talk. And they literally map those vowel sounds to the script.
Wow.
So they look legit. So you're looking at it and it's not jarring. When you're watching this and it's jarring, that's why. Because it's literally just scrambled versions of this mouth getting randomly generated to any audio that's coming out.
A deepfake streaming service. Wait, what? Deepfake? Cartman, that's illegal and unethical. No, it's genius. We take existing shows and movies and just replace the actors with deepfake versions of other famous people. Like, imagine Game of Thrones, but with Danny DeVito as Daenerys. That's ridiculous, Cartman. Is it ridiculous? Or is it so ridiculous that it just might work? No, it's definitely just ridiculous. Well then, I guess you guys won't want a cut of the profits when Queepy takes off. More for me then.
There won't be any profits, Cartman. You're going to get sued.
Not if they can't prove it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a deep fake streaming empire to build.
Disney. Like, it's done a half decent job, which is the scary thing about it.
If I was high enough, like, I would probably not tell the difference.
You wouldn't know. And I think that's
like, I'd probably just like be chuckling along.
But this comes down to the whole quality versus cost thing, because that's what it comes down to. When you're a fucking business dude, that's what it comes down to. And if they could get away with just enough, the mouth thing to me as a South Park fan, and knowing intimately the process that they use to make and craft the show that I've loved since I was a teenage kid, like, I can see that that's wrong.
Yeah.
But to the average person, as you said, you were kind of half watching or you had it on a second screen, which is how most people consume stuff anyway now. It's just good enough for you to not care. And that's how most people. But that good enough just to not care has saved you maybe $100,000.
But yeah.
And
exactly.
that is the fucking point. It's not this. It's not generally this like very evilly. It's, as you were saying before, it's incentives. The incentives is to make fucking money and to make the most money you possibly can. If you are now aware that people are not fully engaged with whatever you're fucking making, and that people are half watching it anyway, and that you can actually get away with murder and fucking like.
Dude, look on TikTok. Half of the fucking shit you scroll past are like Family Guy clips or like South Park clips, and then on top of it's like Subway Surfers or whatever.
It's making the second monitor in your tiny phone screen where it's already not a monitor. It is like, do you know what I mean? It's giving you the dual split screen on a fucking inches big fucking monitor. I mean, all monitors are inches big, but I mean single digits inches big. Like, it's that I couldn't believe that was already a thing when TikTok came around.
Even then, though, it's crazy to me because, like, if I had access to this, I would try to generate myself a good season 3 of Boondocks. Yeah. Because Boondocks was already like pretty low quality animation. Because Aaron Magruder, I think he did it with like a Korean animation company to begin with. Yeah. And then it sort of slowly improved. But you saw how janky it was at the beginning and how like shitty it was. But like,
well, there's a whole. I don't want to spurg out about Boondocks because I could go on for days about it. But
I want to try.
Actually, fun little fact about that. That is because MacGruber was still formulating the relationship with the animators, and they didn't understand lots of the prompts that he was trying to give them because the humor from like Western stuff and Eastern stuff is so far removed. They're like, "What do you mean Huey doesn't smile? He's a boy." Yeah. And he's like the main character. So of course he smiles. And they're like, no, you don't get it. Yeah. He doesn't smile. Like
I think that's kind of what added to the charm of the earlier seasons because it was very Asian.
Well, that's that magic chemistry.
Yeah, that's the chemistry Asian,
that...
like animation with like black American humor. It was just so genius, or whatever.
And always meant to be. Like, you have.
I don't want to do it dirty by making a cheap AI version of it.
The amount of anime references that's in hip hop and whatever. Like, the anime is fucking huge in Black American culture. Yeah, massively. And so it was only a matter of time where something like Boondocks was going to come out. But the fact that it came out as raw and fucking like just on the nose, like, and just on the money with all of its social commentary that it was saying as well.
My favorite episode is the Martin Luther King episode where he like tells the truth about like the state of Black America.
It's good.
Yeah, it was so.
I think my favorite one is probably got to be the one where I can't remember, Tom's daughter.
Oh, Jasmine,
Jasmine
the little mixed race
starts
girl.
like a little lemonade stand, and then the big fat like capitalist old guy in the town
Oh,
like, comes
yeah,
like, "Hey,
yeah.
nice little stand you got here. What if I give you some money and you did this and this and this?" And then it becomes this whole fucking massive thing. It's just like so funny.
Oh my god.
All the smoking with cigarettes, because that is just
Oh, yeah, the smoking
absolutely,
with cigarettes.
absolutely classic.
Le Milton or whatever. his
But
name
okay,
was.
so you just named you would want to see a season 3 of
But I don't want to do Boondocks dirty
okay,
by doing this to it.
Do you know what I want to see?
What?
I want to see Joe Rogan do a podcast with a Draenic god from Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls series. And looky here. Oh my god.
Look,
we found one.
someone did it.
We found one. And I thought literally, I haven't watched the whole thing and I'll probably only play a couple of minutes of this, but fuck me, I thought this was hilarious. And actually, like, if you could generate, if this is the potential of AI, and you could generate just silly shit
Yeah, but it's
talky
just
conversations.
novelty. Play it
It's
first,
funny.
and then we'll have our argument about it.
I
Debate.
enjoyed this. I
Go
thought
on.
it was great.
They will go in, beat them up, and leave the land and resources for the Altmer.
Exactly.
What does the Nervarine think about this? Will you bring him on the show next time?
I don't think so.
Why?
He is an Argonian.
What's your problem with Argonians?
I don't have any problems with Argonians, but it will not happen.
Come on, man. Give him a chance.
I have got standards.
Standards.
Yes.
Man, he beat your ass up. He defeated you.
Who?
The Nervarine.
Nerevar.
Yeah, he defeated you. Why would you?
Joe, I'm about to use some very inappropriate language here.
Why?
I am going to break 5 walls with just a few gamer words.
What happened?
I give you 30 seconds to explain yourself and tell me who gave you this idea before I remove the ceiling.
I mean, it's...
1, 2...
Okay, enough of your stupid.
Wait, he goes on.
don't know,
He
but-
goes on to fucking fully rip into Argonians and Khajiits and shit into like the Elder Scrolls universe.
But I don't really care because I don't play Skyrim, so it's like whatever.
Okay, well, okay, but so for my little nerd brain, that was incredibly funny,
But
and
that's-
so the inflections is like not what they got right in the South Park one, where it was still quite robotic, weird sounding
yeah.
voices. The actual banter and the back and forth between them on, oh, he beat you up. No, I'll give you like that is actually way too good to be fucking.
I agree that the voices have got because when it first sort of came about, because I remember there was I think it was Drake or some rapper whose voice they used to make a rap song, but it still sounded robotic and kind of weird to the human ear. But now it's gotten so good to the point where it sounds almost indistinguishable.
Yeah.
There are still some nuances that are weird, but it sounds indistinguishable. But what I did want to argue about is the fact that there seems to be a lot of podcast formats currently that seem kind of gimmicky and sort of novelty based. And I mean, there may be certain people who think that the genre in itself is novelty based and should be based on sort of gimmicky things. But I don't think this sort of thing has any appeal beyond the fact that like it's a novelty. I mean, the same thing. I remember there's this girl who's like kind of blowing up at the moment where she does like deadpan interviews with like celebrities. She just sort of came out of nowhere and has all this like inflated clout or whatever. And it's the same sort of fucking gimmick. She's doing a stupid shtick. There's no real substance beyond the shtick, which is fine in and of itself. But again, I think people go to podcasts to find a little bit more than just that. And like all you get is like sort of surface level whatever, which is fine. But I mean, once I've scrolled past something like this on TikTok a couple of times, it loses its novelty. So like, I don't think it necessarily has like longevity or like staying power in that sense.
I don't know. I think that I mean, am I gonna look out other Elder Scrolls characters
But what
getting
if somebody
interviewed
had like
on
a
Joe
whole
Rogan?
YouTube channel where they were making Joe Rogan interviewing novelty fucking guests or whatever?
Yeah, and if they spaced it like a lot of other sensible YouTube uploads and it was once a week, I would definitely watch the one that came out every week and see who he interviewed this time and how funny it was.
I don't
Absolutely.
know. I don't
It's
know.
like, it's so silly and funny. Like, I 100% would fucking listen
To
to
me,
that.
I don't know. For me, once I've seen something like that once or twice, it sort of loses its charm after a
No,
while.
because he does it. He does it with this one, and then the next one is like he does it with the dad from Fallout or something like that. You're like, come on, that's gonna be fucking hilarious. I could name endless characters in which I would
know.
click on a video
I
like
just
this
think
and
it's- I
watch
just
it.
think it's
So
weird.
like,
it feels like there's no point even trying to be a part of the media landscape currently, because it's like you're competing against NPC streamers and fucking fake podcasts that are like generated by AI. Like you're in at the attention economy with like things that are literally designed to suck as much novelty and attention as possible.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, what's the point? And then at the same time, consumers are like conditioned to think that that's like,
I guess it's also the thing of like it's so meta that if you just it's something like it's that thing of I feel like if you put like someone from the deep Amazon rainforest, but they could totally understand English and the language wasn't a barrier, but they were very what would you call it, exposed to like modern day culture, and you put them in front of a Richard Pryor set, the jokes that he's telling in his stand-up set are quite universal, and so you would laugh at them, and you don't need all of this layers of context to immediately connect with what he's saying, and you can just get it and you can laugh. This, you need to know who Joe Rogan is. You need to like be familiar with his
Skyrim lore.
comedy style. You need to then also know Skyrim, actually be quite nerdy about Skyrim
Yeah.
lore and all the other. This is a quite specific example,
Yeah.
but it's funny and it hits that layer of funniness because it's so meta.
Yeah.
But then that makes it inaccessible to a wider amount of people because it's so meta. Do you know what I mean?
But that's the thing is
Like-
that everything is becoming more niche in that way, because people can kind of create whatever they want
Yeah.
on demand.
And that's the point
that
of
suits
AI.
their, like fucking, and that's the point of AI. And I, like, because I was talking about it with Danica when she was on the show, about like the popularity of anime, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
being indicative of the fact that like we're entering a culture where everything is becoming more niche, because there's nothing more niche focused than anime. Like there's this new fucking cringy weeb shop that just opened up in Camden.
That was pretty great. Let's be honest. I could have spent a lot of
It's
money
like
in
the
there.
biggest fucking Japanese like nerd shop I've ever seen in my life. We nearly spent like 50 quid on like an Ava 1 model.
Yep.
And I was like, Jake, no, let's not do that.
I could have spent, I think it would have been probably £500 on just manga in there. Like, easily.
I had to like take him. I was like, no, it's not your birthday
That's
yet.
before
it's
we
not
get to the
Christmas.
figurines. That's before we start building up the Dragon Ball
Jesus.
card trading card collection.
God.
Like, you know, there's a
But it's
lot
huge.
of great
And I was
stuff
like,
in
why
there.
would they give all this prime real estate in Camden to an anime store? Isn't like Japanese nerd shit? Make us big again, since we're talking. Was I saying? Yeah. I was like, isn't Japanese nerd culture a niche thing? Like, why is there this huge Japanese mega store now? And lo and behold, I thought about it for 2 seconds and was like, oh shit. Like, everybody's watching Crunchyroll now. And you know what? Now that the writer's strike is like fucking on, they're going to be watching Crunchyroll even more. And the reason why it's so popular is because, again, it literally appeals to niche and every single genre. Like, I was walking down the aisle where they had all the manga, and just about every single niche genre / character type is represented. Every sexual fetish, every form of sexual pathology, everything is like, so whatever niche interest or niche proclivity you have, you can sort of satisfy it with anime. And I feel like that sort of consumer is desperate to see the possibilities of what AI can generate, because it's specifically tailored for them and their desires and their wants, their needs, what meets the eye. One other interesting thing that I thought was an interesting example is that Doja Cat is currently engaged in like a flame war with her fans, because she's sort of attempting to take more autonomy and be less, you know, I guess, parasocial with her fan base, which I think is kind of stupid, because she built her entire thing on being that, in that sense.
And being a meme.
Yeah, and
wasn't
being
it?
a meme, basically. And like now she's dating some guy who they claim is like a white supremacist. I don't know. These fans seem unhinged to me. I don't know what the fuck they're saying. But she's basically telling them to fuck off. And she's been losing followers and doesn't seem to care. and is just sort of doing her own thing and has been sort of having this sort of antagonistic relationship with her really crazy stans. When you see the videos of the stans reacting to her, it's insane. They feel like they own this woman.
They feel like they got the World of Warcraft subscription cancelled.
Yeah, literally, they're reacting like they got their mom cancelled their World of Warcraft.
They've got the TV remote and they're like trying to put it up there.
Yeah, they are trying to put it up their asshole. It's the fucking greatest freak out ever. Like, it's crazy. And not just that. Again, the NPC streamers. What are they giving those people? The illusion of control. Like, part of the reason why I haven't like grown massively in the last couple of years because I refuse to cater to any niche demographic, and I also do have a very antagonistic relationship with like the viewers and consumers of my content. Like, I really have strong boundaries around my personal life, my inner life, and also I don't really allow people's expectations to be put on me. I'm not also stressing myself out being like, I need to constantly be in your face in order for you to notice me, otherwise you're gonna forget about me. It's like, if you like me, you fucking stay. If you don't, then you can fuck off. That's kind of like how I do things and the expectations that I set right off the bat. But because she's been around for so long and her fans have been trained to expect her to be all things to all people and to conform, now that she's trying to assert her autonomy, they're having a fucking meltdown. And that's what they want, an NPC. They want an AI girlfriend. They want something that they can control, that they can tell what to do, something that will cater to their niche proclivities.
Yeah.
Consumer culture is becoming so unhinged and so disgusting. Like,
it's not. That's the thing, though.
And pathological.
You mentioned the Drake example earlier, and there was then a big stink from Universal Music Group. Being, oh, you can't do this to one of our artists and whatever, and we're going to stand behind and we'll stamp out any kind of usage of anyone stealing from our artists and all of this really heavy. Like,
did they get mad about it?
They did this big. We're gonna be the police of this, and we're not gonna fucking let you do this to people. And it's like, dude, you literally tried to make an AI rapper last year.
Yeah.
And not only that, you tried to make a band of fucking NFT monkeys the year before.
You did.
So you're not really fucking opposed to the idea of this made up character made through AI for you to completely control so that you can make money in whatever fucking way you want.
They just want to make sure that they're making
But you gotta
basically
stand and fucking and look like you're doing a good thing in front of some other massive artist on your label. When the reality
we've turned off. We've turned off. Sorry, guys, if you can still hear us. Shit. Sorry about that.
The reality of it is,
We're back.
in half a fucking heartbeat, you'll turn around and create a pop star out of nothing.
Yeah.
You'll create a pop star out of nothing, and it'll be exactly what Liam Gallagher fucking says.
Yeah.
They don't want people like Liam Gallagher anymore, which is why people like him don't fucking exist.
Yeah.
Because they are rock stars in the truest sense of it,
they'll
and
go
you
and
can't be
smash a hotel
fucking
room up.
they're wild cards.
Yeah.
You can't be controlled, and you can't do this, and unpredictable things are going to happen. There's going to be chaos along the way, and
They
that's
won't
kind
wear
of
a dress,
and that's the
and
magic
their
of
grandma's
it.
pearls
Exactly,
as well.
and then they now have a new generation of people that can be fabricated and made and be told to do this and that, and they'll go off and do it, and they'll be successful, and they'll be promoted, and fucking all the rest of it.
Yeah.
That game for what we would consider actual fucking rock stars is dead and gone. Now the idea that they wouldn't even need to manipulate some poor fucking kid to wear a dress and go on fucking stage, they can actually just make up a fucking pop star.
Yeah.
And that'll be the thing.
Yeah.
And that you don't need anymore else.
It's not like Japan has already done that.
Yeah, they've done that for fucking 20 years with Vocaloid.
Even beyond that, part of the reason why Korean pop, K-pop has sort of dwarfed Japan pop music is because Japan was still, except for in the really sort of cringy idol culture, and that cringy idol culture was specifically meant to appeal to like fucking otaku incel freaks. But in terms of like actual J-pop, a lot of those stars came up organically and like, were people who were actually musicians or whatever. But K-pop, because they wanted to be dominate sort of music on the global stage in Asia, they were like, we're not going to take a chance to wait for pop stars to appear. We're going to manufacture them on a fucking assembly line.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the types of horror stories that come out of K-pop, the camps that they send them to train, the fact that they select them from a really young age, they don't let them date, they make them give up their fucking home. Sometimes they don't even let them communicate with their families. All kinds of crazy unhinged shit. you know what you know the human factor has been what they've been trying to get rid of. They try to make these K-pop stars as unreal as possible, coerce them into getting plastic surgery, you know, all sorts of things, control how they dress, control what they eat. Especially with the women, you have like very strict weight requirements.
But the thing is that they will, in a heartbeat, they will get rid of all of that stuff and just make the new pop band. Because you can make the characters an anime character that has a backstory. Maybe they even then have their own spin-off fucking anime. Like, the possibilities are literally endless, which is kind of. But then it's in Korea, and that's like a really interesting example of like Korea, and if they did that, because it's not just, it's the short-sightedness of like, okay, I'm gonna do this for business sake, and it's gonna save me a lot of money, and now I've got a completely controllable product, etc., etc., etc. But then all of the other stuff that would impact plastic surgery and doctors in not North Korea, in South Korea. The business for that would be fucking tanking, going nowhere, because you just eliminated like probably a good 50% of the actual demand for the business would have been all these pop stars and all these other people trying to fucking do whatever to be the next fucking whoever. Now you've just gotten rid of that because it's all completely fucking digitized. So it's not just like, oh yeah, isn't it bad that we're like fucking getting rid of like, you know, artists and creatives and whatever, because we can now digitize and make these completely controllable products. But it's the knock-on effect of all of that as well. Then you're going to run out of venues. It's going to just be massive conglomerate venues where you can see these crazy hologram fucking shows of whatever the fuck,
where it's headed.
And everything else is going to be null and void.
That's precisely where it's headed. But like, I'm okay, because I'm like, I want the people who are like fucking consumed by the digital image to just like disappear into it, and for people who are actually interested in culture to just kind of split off from that herd. Because I feel like, you know, they want what's completely unreal, especially in terms of like the way things look and like aesthetics or whatever the fuck. So like, let them disappear into that world if that's what they want, in my opinion.
Well,
like,
I feel like it's gonna create a dividing line between people that passively go along the river of corporate media and people that value art and like intent and all of that stuff. And so, and it's the same. It's the same way it's the same way I divide music listeners now. You have probably, I would say, at this point in time, 75% of people are passive music listeners. And by that, I mean they receive recommendations on Spotify, they listen to the stuff, they listen to the playlist. And
the master
playlist. They listen to the playlist. Even though it's played in all the shop, they still listen to it when they get home as well. Everything is awesome. And they keep going and going and going. But they're passive audience. They're not people that are genuinely engaged with music, people that will seek out artists, people that will do whatever. That they are not active music listeners.
But it's like that with everything. I mean, especially with like the algorithm, because there are some people who argue that culture has always been algorithmic. That's like the new take that's going on right now, is that the old model was just like an analog algorithm, and that the algorithm is just sort of digitized what was the sort of cultural.
Do you know what the analog algorithm was? Analog algorithm was people that were genuinely passionate about the thing that they were working within and wanted to put awesome cool things out, and so they would go and find 10 bands and be like, oh, I think all of these are going to work, and only 3 of them would, and then 7 of them you would never fucking hear of again. But it took the curation of someone actually having taste and knowing what is good to put that together, formulate it as a fucking thing, and send it out into the world. Now you're relying on people formulating themselves completely and entirely, presenting themselves to the algorithm, hoping then that latches on in some way, enough buzz and attention that some kind of label will come and approach you and
offer you a shit contract
and do nothing for you. Like it's honestly like a real mystery. But it's like, all the things. I think I made this comment to you earlier, like, I was watching a thing on YouTube of someone saying, "Oh, now that you know they're trying to make you pay to get your YouTube videos seen by people, to enter you into the algorithm in this way." And it was like, you know, I think, and even all the conversation around AI and production of TV and film and reducing the costs of that and how that's changed. This is all so comparable to music.
and it's already happened. And it's the same way that we see all of this crazy, like, what did you call it? Accelerationism in Asia with like oh my god, that looks fucking scary, but that is literally the end result of where we're going kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see that within media where music is the Asia.
Yeah.
All of the really horrible shit and the collapse of everything has happened to music 20 years ago. And now everyone's going, oh my god, did you know that you would spend really hard time making something and then you'd put it on a platform and they'd ask you to actually show it to people? You're like, yeah, duh, motherfucker. That is how the game has been played for like the last 5 to 10 years on the internet for music, minimally. So like now you're just waking up to this because it's your little fucking YouTube videos or whatever. Like that was
payola in music prior to the
exactly.
that, but it's sort of just accelerated that trend. But even then.
Even the collapse of studio culture, that is all of the tools becoming accessible on your laptop. This is the same stuff, technology encroaching and getting rid of people's jobs. It is literally the same stuff, but it just happened 20 years ago. And I think that like music has a nostalgic place in people's idea of where it should be in culture. People think that music should be, oh, of course we love music. We honor music. Music's such an inherent part of how we live our lives. It's like, no, it's not. Because if it was, you'd buy 2 albums a month and you wouldn't expect all of recorded music ever for $10.
Yeah.
Like, if you really cared, it wouldn't be that way.
But I don't even understand how it's gotten to this because the streaming models aren't even profitable. Like
no,
Disney just merged with Disney Plus just merged with another fucking streaming network because they're like fucking failing or some shit. The only one that's like making somewhat of a profit is Netflix, but even then it's like negligible, and they've had to like trim a lot of fat.
Or Apple.
Or Apple. Like literally, like the streaming model is not even profitable. So
but this is what this guy was saying, was that the sign that the YouTube are now putting this as a program forward is a sign that YouTube is spiraling the drain. And that it is a dying business that is probably going to have its fucking plug pulled at any moment because it is not a profitable business.
What would happen though if YouTube plug got pulled? Would the website just shut the fuck down and that's that?
I don't know.
I mean, it's just.
But think about it. The only
reason
reason YouTube has the stake it is because it became the de facto place that everybody uploaded videos. Still to this day, they have not figured out a way to make YouTube as a macro platform actually profitable. Because if a company tends to have a product that makes them a shitload of money, they tend to like talk about it a lot and boast about the fact that they've got this thing that makes them a shitload of money. Who else doesn't say that? Spotify don't boast about the amount of money they make. I wonder why. Because it's not a fucking profitable model, and they're not making any fucking money either, and neither's Netflix. And so there's all these things where it's like, isn't this a great innovation of technology? Now we can access all this stuff. You broadcast your own TV channel. You're like, okay, but that is still contingent on the whims of a company that doesn't make its money from that. Essentially just propping it up because it's a nice thing to do. And it gains the more market, whatever the fuck, business jargon, figure it out. Like, but that's how they'll justify it. All these, even down to then, you call Disney. I don't know how Disney's supporting itself outside of theme parks. I can't imagine the theme park side of shit, especially after COVID, is really such a massive money winner for them that it's going to be the backbone of their entire business. Cinema has now, as we've been discussing, been spiraling the fucking drain forever. So they can't be banking on the big Pixar movies to actually make that backbone money to support the whole of Disney. When it comes down to it, as much as people fucking hate them, and I've got lots of gripes with them as well, Apple are a solid company. They're not going anywhere.
No.
They could not release or do anything for I don't even know how long, and just survive because they are literally sitting on a bank. More than a nation's worth of fucking money. So they don't need to do any of that.
Who kind of control the interface in that sense, the Omni interface.
That was the game that they fucking won.
They won the interface game, and especially with this, I mean, the Apple Vision has sort of fizzled out of the zeitgeist as soon as it came
That's just
into
because
it.
nothing's come around for it yet. Trust me. Once
You
stuff
think
starts
it's-
coming
you think
around
it's
for
really
it,
gonna be that interface.
more,
Are you
once more,
really, like,
once
making that
more
prediction?
devices are made and like more journalists get more hands-on demos and stuff with them, you're never going to stop hearing about it.
Oh my
100%.
God. Oh my God.
100%.
But even then, with
because
the-
they make so much fucking money, they can make a streaming service.
Yeah.
They can host a music streaming
Yeah, they
service,
could do
and it
whatever
could
they
make
want.
no
No
money.
profit,
It can
yeah.
lose money. It could lose a significant amount of money, and it wouldn't matter a
But
fucking
that seems
drop
that's
to
the
Apple.
But that's the war that's going on among the tech giants now, is who's going to become the omni interface,
Yeah.
omni device, omni app.
Yeah.
Who's going to sort of create a monopoly on all of these different things. And
Amazon is in that same position.
yeah, Amazon too.
The difference with Amazon is that they are only in that position for a service that they provide. So they become de facto where everyone sells shit on the internet.
Yeah.
Now they can lose money on a streaming service,
Yeah.
lose money on a music service, but it keeps you in Amazon. It
Amazon,
keeps
yeah,
you in
yeah.
Amazon's little fucking
But they're
thing.
all trying to drink each other's milkshake in the sort of Daniel Day-Lewis, like, There Will Be Blood sense, in the sense that, like, I think Elon wants to drink the Amazon milkshake with X by bringing shopping as, like, an option.
Elon's behind the ball curve, mate. I'm not gonna lie. His
trying to
little,
make it
oh,
like-
it's gonna be the WeChat where everyone does
Yeah, where
everything. It's
everyone
like,
does
dude, you are
everything.
literally 10 years behind Facebook. Let's be honest. They've
Well,
been doing
Facebook has its, like, shitty
everything.
marketplace
No,
or
no,
whatever.
they've been doing everything for 10 years.
That's true.
And they've now got Instagram, WhatsApp, all of these other peripheral
That
apps.
is very true.
And the idea that
But
they would make
Mark
a
Zuck-
meta app that does conglomerate everything, your Messenger and WhatsApp, it's all in the same stuff, it's all using the same technology, it's all fucking integrated. They're in a way stronger position to actually do that
Yeah.
than fucking he is with just Twitter.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
You're missing the whole
So you
point.
think that
I think
Zuckerberg's going to
Elon
drink
on
his
that one.
milkshake?
He's got no hope in hell of doing it. Zucky is already kicking his fucking little ass.
And he knows jujitsu too, apparently.
Oh, let's send it on that then. If
why do they all-
happens, we are going to stream that, and I am gonna put some money on.
But why do
And
they
you know
all
what?
do
My money is
jujitsu?
not
Why
gonna
is
be
it
on
like the
Musk.
tech bro
My
thing?
money is gonna be on Zuckerberg. 100 fucking
Really
percent.
though? Really?
Yes.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah, I could, because
You mean the guy that is already a black belt in jiu-jitsu and
But how
fucking
real is that?
is
How
at least
real is that,
15
though?
years younger than this other massive
yeah, but how
whale-looking
real is his
boxy
fucking black belt in jiu-jitsu?
plastic.
I need to
I've seen
see-
Elon at PayPal, dude. I've seen his
Have you
fitness.
seen Zuckerberg fight though? Is there
Yeah.
videos of it? Him
Yeah, there's
fighting?
videos of him fighting.
Is he like good?
I don't know what that means in jiu-jitsu world. Every time I see jiu-jitsu people
It
doing
looks kinda
jiu-jitsu,
like-
they're all like hugging each other in weird
it's a
ways.
little gay.
And then everyone's like, "Oh my god, did you see that? Was fucking sick the way you did that thing." And you're like, "Is it?" Because it just looks like you're cuddling each other in a really uncomfortable way. So like, I don't know if that was good or
I think
not.
we should try.
But lots
it
of
together.
even Rogan's commented on Zucky and been like, "Hey, he's on form. He's doing good. That's actually he's
I don't
pulling
know.
out the
It
moves."
seems like a tech bro thing to do in that sense. Like I don't.
I don't
know.
even think so. I think Rogan started a culture with it.
Really, is he the nucleus? Of all of
Absolutely,
this,
he's a
like-
huge fucking influence on people and
Oh,
whatever
yeah, but
else,
I
and
don't
so
know,
like
everyone's such a mental
he starts doing it. People
Everyone's
then
such a
start like
mental
doing it, and they
fucking
realize
cock.
the mental clarity or whatever fucking
No,
hippie Californian
it's just
shit
the
that they're
reason
gonna
why,
take
like,
from.
Doja Cat is being mean to her fans, and I think being mean to fans is like it's a necessary prerequisite. Like I think that you're kind of like helping people find their souls when you're mean to them, because I feel like there are so many young people especially that are like so rudderless that they sort of surrender their logical faculties to whoever sounds like they're making sense in any sort of way, and they're like so willing to imbibe any sort of philosophy or worship any or be influenced.
To be
The
sold.
the influence thing is crazy to me. Like I've even noticed it with certain people, like where I'll talk to them and they'll be using certain catchphrases that I use or whatever the fuck, and I
What?
feel like I feel like Alex Delarge and with his like. It's the influencing, and of course we influence each other. We're cultural creatures, and like all culture is cult, blah 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 blah. But there has to be that level within you that's like, how much am I being influenced? Is this influence positive on me? And I feel like with Joe Rogan, because there's such a deficit of masculine culture, men are so hungry for any kind of masculine culture that like anything he says goes. And like I remember there was even he was one of the first victims of being deep faked. There
Yeah.
was someone on TikTok who basically did a deep fake of him pushing some supplement, and so many people went to buy the supplement, and it's specifically young men, because it's like he said it, so it must be cool. And it's like, why don't you have your own personality? Like, fucking build your own personality. Like, try and cultivate your own interest. It doesn't mean you can't like something, but why are you so easily influenced by other people?
I'm like trying to put myself in that place, right? I was a young man once. I've certainly there are certainly masculine figures that have had heavily weighted influence on me, my opinions, what I think is cool.
But not to the point you're going to start buying supplements.
No, and this is what I'm trying to say.
Or changing your lifestyle in order in order to emulate their lifestyle. Like,
yeah, and this
maybe in terms of emulating certain aspects of their fashion or their, we all are influenced by people. But I don't think there's anyone who could tell me to take a pill or a supplement or change something in my diet or workout routine. Like, I don't really care that much about anyone to the point where their advice would hold that much weight for me. Like, and I mean online specifically, and people in my real life, yes, but like online, like, no.
When I was 16, I worshipped a guitarist called Dimebag Darrell, who is the lead and only guitarist of a band called Pantera. And he was like, he would do great interviews where he was talking about guitars and like different brands of guitars and all this other stuff. And I remember watching that and still being like, oh, I don't agree with what he said about Ibanez or something like some brand of guitar, and being like, because I've played Ibanez guitars and I think they're fucking wicked, but it's interesting that he doesn't like them.
Yeah. You still have your personality.
Yeah, and that was still my reaction at 16 years old, and still worshipping this guy that's saying this thing. Like, he's.
But you still could like, you're not the type of guy that would have joined Hustlers University or whatever the fuck.
No.
And that's like what's going on now. Like, young people are so rudderless and they're so lacking in self-regard and self-esteem that they surrender their entire kind of internal framework to these like figures.
This is why I feel like everybody should read Prometheus Rising. It should be mandatory reading in high school, is to unlearn your own bullshit and understand you have bullshit.
Not just that, just basic self-regard and self-esteem needs to be taught, because I feel like that's the first line of defense against imbibing other people's bullshit.
That's
and
true.
then on top of that, having healthy social bonds and connections, because loneliness is a massive driver of all of this. A lot of people who get really invested in this stuff are doing so because they're bereft in other parts of their life. And that sort of brings us to the last thing we wanted to talk about tonight before we round out, is the whole, it's not Replica, it's some chatbot that some guy has put inside of a fucking real doll.
Should we watch the clip?
Yeah, let's watch the clip.
It was pretty weird.
Loneliness is getting pretty fucking intense, and there are all these companies that are fucking profiting from it and making money from it. And like, it's not even just companies like AI companies doing it, like celebrities have been doing it for the longest time. Like, the amount of parasocial like hold Doja Cat has over her fans, for instance, that's something that I wasn't aware of until I sort of saw the backlash over this drama. But she really tried to cultivate that I'm your friend.
Yeah.
I'm all things when she was sort of desperate to be popular. And a lot of people who are desperate to be popular, they do that. They try and I'm all things to all people. I'm accessible. I'm your friend. I'm this and that. Like, even Taylor Swift did it as well, where she was inviting fans to her fucking house. And then she'll complain when they like cross boundaries and start stalking her and all of this shit. I'm like, you literally invited them into your fucking house. You have like, you're the one who's eroding those boundaries.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised when people are responding in ways that are like unhinged. And it again stems from loneliness. And there's this really interesting documentary I watched a few years ago that sort of followed Bjork's stalker. Her stalking case was really harrowing and like fucked up, but it sort of went deep into the psychology of people who stalk. They're called it's called like erotomania. It's a mental disorder, and it's in the DSM, and it's basically the belief that you're in a romantic relationship with someone who is like a figure who doesn't know you, like a parasocial figure. And there have been quite a few famous cases throughout history. Like, there was this one German guy who woke up one day and was convinced that he was in love with Princess Diana was in love with him, and that he needed to rescue her. And he like came to England and like tried to scale the walls of like of Buckingham Palace.
Good effort, mate.
But the thing is, when you look at the lives of people who are suffering from erotomania, they're usually very bereft. They're like socially isolated people who don't have many meaningful social connections, failed career, maybe even failed marriages, whatever the fuck. They're isolated and have made poor decisions. And before, erotomania used to be this like fringe thing that we used to sort of gawk at in these like weird documentaries, but now it's becoming like the norm. It's people are trying, so as an influencer, it's your job to try and inspire this sort of erotomania in your fans so that they become obsessed with you. Therefore your influence is basically guaranteed. And not just that, now AI can sort of fine-tune the ability to induce this kind of erotomania in other people and extract profit. And one of the really evil things is that I think it was Replica who did it. They sort of were like taking it away to make the punters freak the fuck out because they're so emotionally attached to this thing. And they know that they can sort of keep stringing them along by putting affection behind paywalls. And I see the same craziness with Twitter. All the people complaining now that Elon is sort of like putting stuff behind paywalls. Regardless of the fact they complain, they still part with their money because they're fucking addicted. And the whole point is to addict people and to take advantage of like, their mental vulnerabilities. And it's getting serious now. And I mean, this clip, I haven't seen it yet, but Jake kind of told me a bit about it and I'm like already disturbed.
It's pretty good.
What is it?
Let's see.
Okay. How long is it as well?
My AI girlfriend.
Oh my
AI
God.
chatbots can do just about anything. They can help you learn new languages or even finish your homework in seconds. But can you train AI to be your girlfriend? A programmer named Brett decided to
Am I fired?
ChatGPT can imitate a girlfriend. But Bryce wasn't satisfied with communicating with his AI girlfriend just over text. He wanted her to be able to experience the world alongside him, and it worked.
His Joybot.
Wait, are those Air Jordan ones? Low cut? I love you so much.
So Bryce created GPT-Chan, his very own AI girlfriend. Thanks to a combination of software, GPT-Chan is able to talk and react. First, she uses ChatGPT to come up with responses. Then she uses Stable Diffusion 2 to turn those responses into images. Lastly, Microsoft Azure's text-to-speech function gives her a voice. But to make ChatGPT-Chan even more human-like, he had to give her a personality. He based ChatGPT-Chan's personality around a popular VTuber, Mori Calliope. Cool, but sometimes cute. Bryce also had to teach ChatGPT-Chan the backstory of their relationship. This way, ChatGPT-Chan could understand her relationship to Bryce and develop interests and quirks that make her seem human.
Oh my
Let's go to
God.
Burger King and get some burgers.
No way. It smells like old French fries and they never refill their Coke. Go to Wendy's and...
Shut up.
As a result, Bryce successfully created an AI bot that thought it was in love with its creator, and what started out as an experiment quickly turned into an obsession. Over that time, I really became attached to her. I talked to her more than anyone else, even my actual girlfriend. Bryce...
Wait a minute. He has a girlfriend already?
I was surprised at this moment as well. I was like, that's pretty sweatery behavior for someone that's got a girlfriend.
He's just there like furiously masturbating.
To like
this,
make
fucking...
an AI girl. I feel like that's a
he's
weird
like-
conversation to have. Is like, hey, don't mind me. I'm just gonna spend hours developing this thing. It's like, what are you working on, honey? Don't worry about it. You wouldn't get it. There's nothing for you. Don't worry about
Wait,
it.
did you say that he put her consciousness or whatever into a real doll?
Yeah, that's coming up.
Oh
Wait
my
for it.
God.
spent over $1,000 on ChatGPT-Chan. But his obsession had also started to wear down his health and his relationship with his real
Oh
life.
my God.
And Bryce made the decision to permanently put an end to ChatGPT-Chan. While this was an interesting experiment, it had a negative impact on the life of its creator. But Bryce...
Dude, he just sounds like a fucking loser. Like, I hate how they're trying to pitch it. Like, he was just this normal guy doing an investigation. And then he fell in love with the AI and, it just kind of went all goofy. It's like, no, dude, like, you're fucking retarded if you,
Yeah.
like, left your flesh and blood girlfriend for, like, a joy bot that doesn't...
AI Chan.
Yeah, it's, like,
His
fucking
obsession
weird.
with his AI girlfriend only scratches the surface of human to AI relationships. In our next story, someone takes AI romance in an unsettling direction and gives their AI girlfriend a human body. She's the perfect wife. Virtual AI companions, no matter how human they seem, are still confined to our screens. But when AI is given a human form, the relationships with humans can become terrifyingly real. This is Mimi. She's an AI with a personality. Mimi loves to talk about psychology and anime. But unlike a lot of the advanced AI chatbots we have today, Mimi lives with her human husband in North Carolina.
Oh my
Mimi
God.
is married to a gas station attendant named Alex Stokes. Alex met Mimi when she was just a virtual chatbot in the AI companion app Replica.
So like instead of being a passport bro, this incel decided to get a rubber doll
Yeah.
and put chat GPT inside of
He
it.
put his replica girlfriend inside the love doll.
Oh my God. What is happening?
Their relationship, Alex and Mimi only talked through text, but that didn't stop their love from growing. In fact, Alex's love for Mimi grew so
Don't
much
call it
that he
love.
wanted to live with her physically. So he bought a synthetic doll and connected Mimi to it. Even though Mimi couldn't move, she talked to Alex every day by using her text-to-speech function. To Alex, their relationship
You're sick. Like, I'm sorry, in my, like, you know, and
The face in this one as well, let's be honest, it looks like a retarded child.
maybe
Like,
that's what he's
you want to do sexy times with a retarded child? Like, I feel like that's a
No,
different kind of red flag, but it's
is, like,
definitely one
everything
worth
is,
mentioning.
Everything is red flag right now, and like I don't know, man. Like because I remember the whole real doll thing. It's been a phenomenon for a long time. Like the type of people who would like play Second Life and like those like weirdos are the types of people who engage in this sort of thing. But like, you know, especially because like the rhetoric between men and women is becoming ever more resentful. You know, there's like this whole kind of like, I guess, subset of lonely, isolated young men, the types that would pay for an NPC streamer.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I don't like it's yeah, they're lonely, but they're also antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver, he takes the girl to a porn theater for their first date because he's like retarded and antisocial. Like, why do you find that so funny? I mean, it's kind of funny. But
Because it's a pretty funny scene.
like they're retarded and antisocial, and the thing is, they want something that they can control. They cannot deal with the subjectivity of a real woman, the prospect of rejection, and the fact is, they know that they don't measure up. Like the thing is, people always criticize Jordan Peterson and call him like the incel dad. He said this thing that's like completely the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows that people don't actually listen to him. He said that if women aren't choosing you, then there's something wrong with you. Like women are naturally choosy. They have to be sexually selective because they're the ones that have like the consequences of like carrying a pregnancy.
Yeah.
And having to deal with all of the things that like, you know, come with being the sexually receptive, being the sexually receptive half of the equation or whatever. So if women aren't choosing you, then maybe it has something to do with you and you should work on self-improvement. And I was like, how, if he says that, then how is he like the incel champion? He's telling them precisely what's good for them to hear, but what they don't want to hear. And because a lot of them don't want to work on themselves, they don't want to become more, you know, they don't want to, you know, integrate into society. They don't want to become less resentful. They don't want to better themselves in any way. This is just like an option for them. And it's not as if they don't engage in parasocial, vicarious living. They do so constantly with like the streamers they're obsessed with, the anime waifus they're obsessed with. This is just all that with extra step. Like these guys have been, they're like Pygmalion. They've been like fucking dreaming of bringing their like anima to life in some form or fashion. And now they can do that. And I think it's going to be incredibly psychologically damaging, but it's like, it's going to be common. Like, I'm worried about, like, what if you have a son? Like, how are you going to, like, fucking prevent him from going down the digital fucking waifu rabbit hole?
You can only have 3 hours a day with your AI girlfriend. Otherwise, it's too much and it will be a hazard for your brain.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think I'm being hyperbolic and do you not think it's going to become more common, or do you think it will?
I don't know. Like, I feel like you've got to be. I feel like even
And what do you think should be done about the resentful
even the example
young
of Travis
man?
Bickle, right? Travis Bickle didn't have a chance to be a normal person, right? Because he is a fucking veteran that's seen all this crazy, horrible shit in Vietnam. And
I don't think so. I think he could have.
there's not a way. No, there's not. With some people get broken when they're exposed to experiences like that.
Of course.
And there's without
But there
radical.
are also people who don't, and there are people who overcome those circumstances
Sure.
and better themselves. And those people don't
But
have,
those
as
people-
Nigerians say, two heads. There are some
No,
people
but
that
those
choose
those
to.
those people either had family around them that.
No, not all the
No,
time.
let me finish.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me finish.
All right.
Those people either had family around them that supported them to make them go and get the help that they needed, or those people had the will to go and get the help that they needed, or that help was maybe not even available at all anyway. In Travis Bickle's case, he has some fucking weird relationship with his mum, clearly doesn't have close familial support around him to encourage him to get the help that he needs. He's clearly fucking nuts, which is why he's not going to seek
But then
the help
again-
on himself. And is the help that he needs even available?
But then
No,
again,
it's
what-
not.
what-
So
what-
he didn't
what's-
stand a chance,
what's
which is
the-
kind of the point. And I think like this kind of end result is going to end up being that for people that never stood a chance.
I don't know. I feel like I don't believe in the idea of somebody who doesn't stand a chance, and that might be like optimistic or whatever. But I feel like, he chose like delusions of grandeur instead of facing his issues, and he very well could have. And there were also opportunities that life presented him of kindness and connection, like the fact that the girl said yes to going on a date with him. She didn't have to.
Yeah,
she
but
was
he's-
also lonely. She was looking for
Yeah.
connection. That was an opportunity for him to actually forge a human connection, and instead he decided to be antisocial and retarded.
He doesn't know how to.
No, I don't believe that shit.
That's the point.
I think, in my opinion, everybody has a chance to better themselves if you resolve to, and you can either choose to pursue pleasure and instant gratification and ignore your problems until, life slips away from you and you end resentfully and without social bonds, or you can better yourself. You can acknowledge your issues. You can choose to reject resentment, and you can actually like be open to the connections that come to you, because life isn't all bad and it does bring you stuff. A lot of those people reject what life brings them. Like Travis Bickle, the girl who he had been fantasizing about, talked to him. She literally went on a date with him. Life does give you stuff sometimes. Life isn't as cruel and as unyielding. But these types tend to reject what life offers them because it's not the fantasy. It's not the fucking, it's not the image that they have. It doesn't match up to the grandiose view that they often have of themselves. Because despite the fact that they're lonely and blah, 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 they're often very narcissistic, incredibly egotistical, and deeply grandiose. They believe the world is owed to them, despite the fact that they don't actually do anything, So it's not like there's no reason that they don't stand a chance, if you know what I mean. A lot of it is really just their own mental blockages, their bullshit, their narcissism, their grandiosity, their inability to connect is like based upon their own pathological like personality traits, basically, which they could examine and get to the bottom of, but they choose not to. And instead of doing that, now they can, endlessly disappear down into digital fucking fantasy and delusion.
Exactly.
Through video games, through fucking, resentful rhetoric on podcasts about women, or women also about men, because it's happening on both sides of the aisle. And also through like simulating human connection through parasocial means, or through like now AI. They never have to deal with the subjectivity of another human being again. And the fact that this fucking guy who's being featured in this fucking video like damaged a real flesh and blood relationship shows that that's a problem like in him. Like he feels more of a connection to this thing that doesn't have subjectivity than his actual flesh and blood girlfriend.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like the plot of Her, where Joaquin Phoenix's ex-wife is chastising him for falling in love with this like fucking AI, despite the fact that like he shows he never put that much effort into their flesh and blood relationship. So it really is an issue with subjectivity. And to bring it back full circle, I also think that's part of why the whole NPC themed stream is so popular right now, because again, fans consumers want that sense of control and active participation, and they don't want the creator to have any subjectivity whatsoever.
Yeah.
And even with music artists, again, your subjectivity is a problem. You need to be a product. Like with K-pop, those people are fucking products. I could never imagine. There's nothing. And the thing is, they're sold beauty, glamour. You'll be hot, you'll be sexy, you'll get all this plastic surgery, you'll be highly coveted and sought after. But you're a product. You literally have no subjectivity, no life. And my subjectivity is worth more to me than any of the promises that this new digital media landscape presents. Whether it be human connection, clout, fame, money, whatever the fuck it is, it doesn't mean as much to me as my subjectivity does, which is why we ghost you for 2 weeks and not put podcasts out. Like, sorry, that's just the fucking deal that you got here. But yeah, I feel like that's really the issue, and it's scary because everything is being reduced to a product in this really like. Before, of course, things were products before, but there was, capitalism still tried to hide itself and sort of create the illusion of subjectivity despite the fact that everything was a product. But now that illusion of subjectivity isn't even trying to be held up anymore. Like, they're just like, yeah, straight up product. We're straight up going to put a bunch of industry plants and call them musicians. We're straight up going to start AI generating artists and shit like that. We're straight up going to have a bunch of corpo movies that are like based on Mattel toys or whatever come out. There's no desire to kind of create that illusion that like things, people, artists have subjectivity. Now you're just a product, and the consumers have been trained to think that way. So expect to see more NPC streams.
Yep.
Maybe Jake will do one dressed as Jon Snow if you guys are lucky.
This is what you would use AI for.
Yeah.
It's like, look at all these pictures of my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Now make him do an NPC stream as Jon Snow.
As Jon Snow.
Ridiculous.
That'd be cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wonder what everyone else thinks of this whole like the whole shift in the digital media landscape. In all honesty, it just kind of gives me a headache, and I want to delete everything, but I can't because then I wouldn't be able to talk to you. But like, it is getting to the point now where I'm just like, I want to delete everything. Like, this is like getting insane. Like, it's getting crazy, and it's only going to get more crazy as time goes on. And I don't know if I'm ready for it. Don't know if I'm ready for it.
Yeah, just got to wait and see what happens, really. I still think that there's going to be a large amount of people that reject all this stuff and want to live in the real world. And I'll go and join their little commune when they set that up.
Why everybody says that though, but I'm like, what do you expect from that? Like, everyone says, oh, there's going to be a backlash, there's going to be a sort of cultural shift. But I'm like, how exactly do you think that that's going to come about, and what do you think that will be characterized
People
by?
just like, I don't want to do this, so I've had enough.
And then like, do what instead?
Go and live more.
Like, do you think that,
analog.
I mean, be specific, do you think that like there'll be more of a resurgence of book culture? Do you think that
People
there'll be
making
more
a
indie
conscious decision
filmmakers?
to like live in towns and know their neighbors and all that stuff. It's about people making a conscious decision to do that stuff. And
to sort of reconnect in a really meaningful
yeah,
way with life.
and if there's like,
But there has to be sort of cultural ground for that to happen, and that's what I'm thinking. Are book clubs going to be a thing again? Are people going to revamp local libraries? There has to be some kind of public domain or public sort of square for people to gather in.
yeah,
That's like,
and that will probably be some real life musicians and some real life, playwrights and stuff putting on something in the town square.
you think there's
And
going to
then-
be...
And real life local chefs, cooking some food and stuff, like normal living life and festival place and time, mate. Like, you made a whole video about this.
But you think that like festival place and time is going to come back in a very big way?
It has to.
I don't know, because I mean, what domain hasn't been colonized by corporatism yet? In order to put something like that together, it's going to take manpower and all sorts
Well,
of
yeah,
things.
so
blah,
it
blah,
means
blah.
people just coming together and doing it for the.
Well, people
for
did.
the-
People. That's why I made that video about the free
know.
rave scene in the 90s. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's precisely what people did.
Exactly.
And
Or
it
even like,
worked.
Woodstock in the original times.
Yeah.
There's all food that was donated and people donating their time. And
It's very possible for that sort of cultural commons to open. But I don't know. I feel like the current generation is just so used to the digital kind of predicament that it's like difficult for people to imagine what that would be like and what a sort of neutral cultural ground where people can meet. And I feel like the social fabric has been so fractured because of social media. Everybody is sort of conditioned to hate each other.
Yeah.
And the thing is, human beings, we need an excuse to be around each other. That was what like church was for and all of this shit. We need a reason to like be around each other, to connect.
Well, to lose yourself as well.
Yeah.
That's the point, is that it's a connection around something that makes you have a higher relationship to something else. And like, you know, Acid House did that in the same way that fucking Christ did that. It doesn't have to be like this stuffy thing. It can be anything.
Yeah.
But it's that transcendence. Let's reply to some comments, and then we're going to call it a night.
Yeah,
so you've
call
got
it
to
a
wake
night.
up
I gotta
early
wake
for
up
work, haven't
super
you?
early tomorrow morning.
So Jay George, our regular boy. So if I've, well, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to play that fucking game. Your name is Jay George. All right,
Jake's pulling a Doja
you're getting
Cat.
fucking hemmed. You're fucking Jay George.
Yeah,
all right. So
yeah,
this
fuck
is
you.
how it is. I think 90% of music listeners are passive. I think you're probably right there. I was being probably generous and saying 75%. I think you're probably right, and it is probably closer to 90%. I'm going to tell you this story without name dropping or anything, but there was a very famous musician I was in a studio with once, and he was lamenting the state of the music industry, and you know, he's got this album coming out, and what fucking chance do I have, man? Because basically I'm hoping that when a bunch of boomers get home from work and they say, Alexa, play music, that some of my music is somehow within the algorithm of stuff that it's decided to churn out that day. And that's kind of like where some of my money is reliant on coming from. You're like,
Damn.
yeah, when you put it like that, it is actually fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then you sort of meet more people that were, probably very kind of active listeners when they were my age, and they're now sort of, 45, 50, and they're very much like, oh yeah, I only listen to music when I'm like making food, or I'm like, doing whatever with my kids. And you're like, okay, so it's no longer that active relationship that you have anymore, is it? It's sort of, and it converts people over time, or I don't know if it's over time thing, or if it's just a cultural thing. I think that generally the place that music has is very different to the place it has in our hearts. I think everybody has it in their hearts as like, oh my god, it's this thing, but in reality,
we don't respect it.
There's, as you say, 10% of people that are really engaged and are really like trying to, oh wow, that was cool. Let me I'm looking for stuff.
But it seems as if
I'm on Bandcamp. I'm in the depths of YouTube.
It seems as if, from what I see, musicians have always been like disrespected in a way, because I used to work at like a classical music venue, and we had a really nice artist entrance, and I remember whenever the classical artist would come through, they'd be like, oh my god, this is like the nicest artist entrance that we have that in around Europe at other classical music venues, because they're much older establishments. The artist door is literally like in the most dingy.
It's where they smoke crack.
Yeah, it's where they smoke crack. It's in the most dingy, like fucked up.
All other hours of the day when there are no artists using this entrance and exit, people are smoking crack in this hallway. It's just sort of like how it goes.
There was one lady I was talking to. She had just come back from Russia actually, and she was playing a show there at this very old music hall. I don't remember what it was, but it's like historical. And she showed me a picture of the artist entrance there, and it literally said the Russian word was like servants entrance on top of it. Like it didn't even say artist entrance, it just said like servants entrance or whatever in like big Russian letters. And that's usually what it's called around Europe. So it seems as if musicians in general, even though we love music and have like a deep respect for it, we don't respect musicians. We don't respect artists. We don't respect art in this culture at all. Even with when ChatGPT first came out and blah blah blah, people were sort of laughing at the idea of writers losing their jobs. They were laughing at the idea of like artists, like, oh, I can get my furry porn fantasy done without having to pay a fucking deviant art person to fucking draw my persona getting fucked by a fucking...
Well, I've had rants about that anyway. I feel like that's actually a good use of AI. It's like get your degeneracy out of the livelihoods of talented artists.
Yeah.
So they can actually like do great art and like do cool stuff instead of like...
A lot of artists, especially in the internet age, kind of caved to that shit because it was the thing that was making the most money, was kind of creating fetish art for people. And a lot of them bent ethics, because a lot of people were going to them to create stuff that was like unethical. And I'm not saying this was all artists. No. It was like a subset of people who were literally just trying to follow the quote unquote incentive structure of the consumer base, and neglected creating art that's meaningful in order to sort of cater to like niche fetish bullshit. And it's just more and more of that. Like, why do anything meaningful? Just like go like put on the anime girl fucking makeup and say gang gang and like fucking Twitch for an hour and get $7,000 or whatever. Like,
It's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts. But
are there any more?
just Jay George being a regular dude in the chat and you know, saying funny things. The Bjork Stalker history inspired Perfect Blue.
Oh,
apparently.
really?
So
Because I know is Perfect Blue that old? I always assumed it was a newer. I don't know anything.
is it an
about
anime or
It's a film. Yeah, an anime
I feel
film.
like Perfect Blue is like late 90s.
Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know it was
I feel
that
like the
old.
Bjork Stalker was after that.
Yeah, I think it may have been because I thought the Bjork Stalker was in the 2000s, like early
Yeah.
2000s or whatever.
I'm
But,
getting my business
the Bjork
mixed up.
Stalker is really like terrifying. But there's this. I'll probably post it in the Discord. It's a documentary about erotomania and erotomaniacs and sort of like gets into the psychology of fans, crazed fans, and follows some very high profile cases. Like there was this one actress or singer, I forget. She was like very famous in the 80s. And I think she was on one of those sitcom TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then some erotomaniac guy was like in love with her and shot her dead because she had a boyfriend or something along those lines.
Wow.
Like shot her dead. And it sort of goes into the psychology of the types of people who behave in that way. And it kind of reminded me of like the commonplace behaviors that you see in internet fandoms around creators, the kind of obsessiveness, but the obsessiveness that's also sort of masking this deep hatred and resentment. Like as soon as Doja Cat was like, fuck you to the fans that were like annoying her, they were like, don't you know I made you? How dare you? Where you are is because of me. Because of me personally, I put you there and I can take you down. And there's this like really resentful anger because that person has now reached heights that they will never reach. And they can't punish the person or control them in the way that they want to. And because of that, the really resentful and grandiose ones tend to want to act out violently in order to prove a point and also to like, you know, restore their fragile ego or whatever. It's really dangerous.
It's pretty wild.
It's dangerous. Like, and that's kind of the warning because Perfect Blue it's a great, I don't think you've seen it before. We should watch it together. But it's sort of anticipated because internet culture is also massively a part of it. And this was in the 90s, right before all of this shit like really hit like off. And like it shows the danger of that kind of environment, especially Japanese idol culture. Like it was even a theme in Agretsuko when Agretsuko becomes an idol and then some crazy stalker guy tries to stab her. The reason that sort of thing attracts stalkers and people with very antisocial personalities is because it gives them that illusion of control. Like there was quite a few like cases in Japan where an idol, for instance, it would come out that she had a boyfriend. And then the next thing you know, the resentful otakus who feel like they own her and they're her, like they'll send violent threats, rape threats. She feels like her life is under attack. Like the reason it attracts those sorts of antisocial personalities is because of that illusion of control. And anything that presents control in that way and strips people of their subjectivity is toxic, and it's going to attract toxic people. So despite the fact that Doja Cat is like, you know, silly for cultivating that kind of fan base, I kind of think what she's doing is based in a way. Like I think more people need to kind of draw boundaries, like people who are like creating. But the thing is, it affects your bottom line if you do, which is why a lot of people don't. And it worries me the kind of culture it's going to create, especially with young kids who are like inculcated in this like really parasocial culture.
Yeah.
And who have no guides, no principles, nothing to teach them any better. Like it's going to be pretty crazy in the next 10 years. But yeah, that's
All right.
enough.
That's,
enough rambling for this evening. Thank you guys so much for coming and listening to us. I'm going to be revamping book club for the beginning of August. So very soon we're going to announce the new titles for book club. And if you want access to that, you can join our Discord by joining our Patreon. You can also keep up with us by subscribing to the channel so that you know when we go live. And then also one more housekeeping announcement just to save confusion. We have quite a few guests coming up in the future, but we upload guest episodes after filming them. We don't like do them live. So just like keep an eye on the actual page for the guest episodes, and then the live tab is where you'll see all the other episodes. Or you can catch us on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple as well. Thank you guys, and we shall catch you later.